All right, I think we can get started then. So what you're going to be typing in is we're going to go to mtac OEE. It's that, so then type in /move me, and then just type in mtac O, that'd be m-o, and then it should give you a menu pop up for m-OEE.
Bitcrusher, are you able to log into Tranquility?
Or Singularity.
Oh yeah, Singularity, my bad. Oh, it says login failed. Okay. Singularity is kind of a pain in the butt. We've had a lot of people that have had problems with it. So we are recording and I am streaming. So if you can't get in, then just watch the stream and then the video will be on YouTube in probably a couple hours.
Everyone except in ICANP PvP when you're in mtac O, please.
MTAC-O.
M-0EE8. I put it in the ICANP PvP chat.
You can also just type /move me space and then just drag and drop the orange and it'll take you.
And then once you're in here, warp to the Tazy gate.
Warp drive active.
Okay. Imogen, go ahead and warp to the Tazy gate. Okay, we got Destiny. And then we just need Maverick, right?
Yep.
Okay, so to run a GateCamp, you usually, if you're in nullsec, you're going to want bubbles. Lowsec is a bit easier, but each one requires a different thing. So in lowsec, you need a Logi ship or two so that your ships can tank the gate guns. As the person who aggresses the enemy ship is going to be taking the... And so they're going to get just insta-killed by the guns if there's no Logi. In nullsec, you want to usually have a bubble, which stops people from leaving right away and lets you get them. But you can do a GateCamp without either. You know, a GateCamp can be something as simple as one person sitting at a gate. But the idea behind the Gnosis and the Condor pair is that the Condor, as a frigate, has a naturally high scan resolution in slots and low slots, so you can fit a good tank, but also buff up the lock speed of the Condor. And then the Thorax is going to be the secondary DPS. So the way we're going to do this is, Destiny, I'm going to have you orbit the gate at 500 meters. Imogene, sit on top of the gate, so just click approach on it. And then Maverick, you're going to be sitting 5,000 off the gate. Everyone set up?
Yep.
Okay, now Imogene, what I need you to do is I need you to lock Destiny and put your remote to him, okay? Let me know when you've got that done.
Yeah, locking.
And when they're
Okay,
on him, Destiny, you
one
should see
second.
that sensors.
Yeah, I got it. Well, it's
So-
still locking.
Yeah, I'm trying to. So I right-clicked on the gate and it's not showing keep it option. Keep
It's
it
fine. You're
closed.
fine where you are, though. You just need to be within range of the gate.
Okay.
So I wouldn't burn too far out. I'd stay within maybe 5,000 meters or so. Okay, so how this is going to go is I'm going to go into the system and then try to leave. And so, Destiny, you're going to activate your F1 through F3 modules ahead of time, and then as soon as I pop up on your overview, just left click on my name.
Okay.
And Imogene, you're going to lock me as well, and then try to get your scram on me after Destiny gets me pointed and webbed. And then the thorax is going to come in once you two both have me held down and come and shoot me with the blasters to finish me off.
Okay.
So is everyone ready to go?
Yeah, we'll do it.
And yeah, what
Yep.
you do here, Destiny, is you click F1, 2, and 3, and you should get the flashing modules. Perfect. And you can hold that for as long as you want to. And then just put your name on the overview, or sorry, put your cursor on the overview where I'll pop up as soon as I spawn in. And Imogene, make sure that you're not scramming Destiny. Make sure you lock me as well. Okay, you ready?
So do we need our safety?
No, you're in null sec. But you may as well turn them off anyways, because we're on the test server. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know if it'll let you do that. Yeah, just go ahead and turn them off anyways. If you're in low sec, you'll definitely need them off, so. Maverick, go ahead and get closer to the gate. You're going to want to be able to back them up quickly.
Okay.
Should
Oh,
we
wait till
be
it's within like 10 kilometers. I'll be gray. I should be neutral. Yeah, we'll wait till Maverick gets closer. And yeah, most people call gate camping lame and for noobs and all that, but I think it's a very good way to start learning about the basics of PvP because it's relatively simple and you have a very, you have a set of procedures that you have to follow. Okay, so Maverick is near the gate. I'm going to come in, and if you look at the gate, you should see a flash when I come in. And that flash is going to be your signal to get ready. Okay, so I have a 1-minute cloak on my ship, right?
right?
And as soon as my cloak expires, you're going to want to overheat your modules and burn towards me with the condor. Because you want to get that initial point on me. So let's say I'm trying to get to this gate here. And I decloak. Approach, turn on your afterburner, and then as soon as you're in range of me, activate the warp disruptor. Well, the hurricane. Oh, you have to turn on your afterburner,
I see.
Destiny.
Okay. So,
And yeah, I'm within 24, so you can turn on the warp. Okay, so I'm warp disrupted, and then you want to get the webs on me so I can't get away.
Yeah, I was hitting the
I see.
but I mean, if you can't warp, I can outrun you. So
Well, I can also get back to gate if you don't get the webs on me quickly enough. Okay, and then the thorax is going to come in. There. Okay, and so at this point, the idea with the webs is that you want to get on top of me quickly enough where I can't burn back to the gate, right?
right.
Because if I get back to the gate, then I have the ability to leave. And usually you'll want to run the skirmish link for
Capacitor is empty.
increased lock
Capped
speed.
out.
yeah, I'm bumping.
The capacitor is empty.
And so this is why it's important that you have a secondary guy to help you out, is because I can newt you off since you're a frigate, and a lot of ships will fit defensive newts.
The capacitor is empty.
So it's important to be able to restrict my ability to leave even after I've newted you off.
Yeah, I'm just putting them on and off because I can't.
Alright, so you can all reset.
Oh, I can't shoot it.
Well, we'll do it again. We'll see if you guys can get a bit faster this time.
Hope so.
Give me a minute. I overheated. Let me just repair my modules.
Okay, you can go ahead and unlock me, Imogene.
Okay.
Okay, so this time we're gonna have everyone bunch up all together.
All right.
So Maverick and Destiny both get onto Imogene, and Imogene, you can just stay right there on the gate. As the Gnosis, you're the anchor ship, which is the one that's going to be remote sensor boosting the light ship, and is also going to be the secondary tackle once the Condor gets on top of me. And this time, Destiny, we're just going to have you sit right on top of Imogene.
All right.
Did our
Give me a minute to
thorax...
get back. Okay. Give me a minute.
Did you burn out your guns?
Actually, the warp disruptor and the micro press. The afterburner.
Can you repair those at the citadels in here?
I'll give it a try. Give me a minute.
Well, we can just do another round with just Destiny and Gnosis and Gnosis, Imogene. And what you want to do, Destiny, is you want to actually pre-overheat all your modules for the extra range. If you go Shift F1 through 3, and then F1 through 3, then that'll get all the modules primed and ready.
I have to do two separate things. Shift F1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
and then
just
just
click
normal.
Shift F1, 2, 3 to set them up for an overheat. Oh, you don't have thermo. Okay, yeah, that's fine. It's not important for this right now. Yeah, don't worry about it, Destiny. Okay, so I'm gonna do this again. So, Imogene, lock up the Condor and get the remote sensor boosters on him.
He's locked.
Okay. Destiny, prep your modules like you did before. Okay. I'm coming in now. And remember, you just want to hover your name over the overview, and as soon as I show up, click on me, and then double click on me to approach. All right. Ready? So there, you got the warp disruptor on me, and then the webs. There. Okay, awesome. Another thing is that it's really helpful if someone can fly an interceptor, because the longer warp disruption range means that you can put the guy on there and not have to burn out to go get them, which can be a bit difficult. And then the Gnosis comes in with the scram. Okay. Nice.
I love the instant lock.
Yeah, and it's a bit more important when you have the full range, and usually you need that full range to you need the higher warp disruption range to actually get a hold of people. So if there's anyone in Corp that can fly an interceptor, that would probably be for the best, but as it is, it's not a huge issue.
Honestly, if we just run like 3 Condors and put them on different sides of the gate, we should.
Well, it's not necessarily that so much as it is having the backup to actually kill things.
Well, see, my general idea with this class is we get people familiar with the concept of holding somebody, and then all we have to do is, say, grab that Thrasher fleet that's always running around, have them come in as a DPS. accuracy through volume. Works for the M60. Sure.
Well, see, the problem is that I can get back to gate.
Right, but if there's 20 thrashers there, as well as the what we're doing with the condors, and that should be.
If
Yeah,
you're
no,
getting back to
that's not a bad way to do it either.
See, because I'm thinking of dealing with We Are 4. They've got their nice little one-way system. If we set up a gate camp right outside. and
Yeah,
just-
thrashers would be good to have that there, but this is just like the bare minimum of what you need.
Right, right. Well, this is the important part. I mean, yeah, the thrashers, the DPS is obviously important, but we need to be able to hold them down long enough for the DPS to hit.
For sure.
So we get this practice, we have people watching the class, and once everyone gets familiar with it, then boom. And when Singularity copies again, I'll start bringing people out here and training them in a safe environment.
I think the real value of it is if you get like 20 people on here, you can do 10v10s.
Oh, that would be so much fun. There are 50 people in local.
Yeah, a bunch of people hang out here.
Jopel said he'd be back as soon as he could.
Ah! Escape, live. Alright. So in any case, what I did want to do, I'm gonna bop off now, and y'all can bop off the test server if you'd like to. What I wanted to do is I just wanted to talk through some basic level sort of mechanic as far as PvP in general goes.
All right, we're listening.
So essentially, all ships in a fleet can be broken up into 3 different types. You have your DPS, you have your logistics, and then you have your support. And that's for a fleet. Small gang is a bit different, but that is a bit more of a difficult setup to run. So the main role of a DPS ship in a fleet is going to be, of course, doing damage, right? And so this is in your Thrasher and Caracal fleets, the Thrasher and Caracal. And from what I've heard, you guys don't usually bring a lot of Logier support. Like you don't usually have like a bunch of bursts or a bunch
No,
of
no, no,
Mauses
it's
or anything like that. Just
it's just a bunch of thrashers. Yeah.
We're going to be changing that with my fleet, so.
And so the reason why people bring logistics and support ships is because what they let you do is they let you have longer engagement. So if I have 20 Thrashers and I bring 5 bursts along, then if each Thrasher can last 3 times as long, it does 3 times DPS over that period. And of course, it's just like incursions when it comes to doing Logi. You know, you see who broadcasts for shield, you lock them up, you give them shield. So that's the purpose of logistics is grid longevity. So basically, how long you can stay there before you have to leave, or I'll die. The benefit of E-War is that you can restrict ability to stay on grid, to apply damage, or to repair themselves. So for instance, a classic is ECM. ECM is very useful as it can prevent the enemy logistics ships from locking the people who need to be repaired. Dams can be useful because they stop people from sniping at you. Tracking disruption is useful because it can stop people's guns from hitting. And so on and so forth. So let's say, for example, that you have 20 Caracals and you're going versus a Lashak, or 2 or 3 Lashak. Now that one Lashak can burn down the Caracals pretty quickly, but if you have a single Crucifier, a single frigate with all your Caracals, then the Lashak can never reach you because his gun range is now 10 kilometers instead of 8. And so that's the value of E-War, is that it really helps you to leverage your ability to bring another person whose specific role it is to disable enemy ships' ability to fight. And so part of getting used to that idea would be to bring, let's say, a couple Molluses on your next Thrasher. You have like 10 to 15 Thrashers, 2 Molluses, and 2 to 3 bursts. You're going to be a lot more effective than if you just had 15 Thrashers. Because those other 5 ships help you stay on the grid longer.
Warp drive active.
So those are the 3 fleet roles. I think that if you want to have a good ratio, it would be around 1 to 5. So for every 5 DPS ships, you bring 1 Logi ship and 1 support. So let's say you get a 30-man Thrasher fleet. You'd want to bring along 6 Logi ships and 6 supports. Of course, you know, you can, as you scale up, it gets less and less. So for instance, like on the Goon fleets where they run 100 Harpies, they'll usually bring like 10 Scalpels for Logi, and then 10
Docking request
Interceptors,
accepted.
Interdictors, and E-War ships. But generally the ratio holds. Another important part about actually being able to PvP is to give people a reason to, right? So for instance, I've seen several people say that, you know, you just show up to a enemy fleet. Let's say that WeR4 is gate camping, right? They're gate camping a high sec because they have you war decked, and there's 1 cruiser, and you bring in 20 Thrashers to come and kill them. Well, that guy has no reason to stay, right? He's just gonna... You have to have a reason, or you have to force them to fight. And so part of that would be you bring in a ship that has a lot of EHP, but that can hold him down, and as soon as they engage you, you can hold him in time for your friends to get... You know, all warfare in general is based on deception, and in EVE that's even more true. Because no one wants to lose their ship permanently, everyone's only going to take fights that they're sure they can win. So you have to make them think they can win, and then bring something that will ensure that they don't. So, you know, in our example with the gate camping Ikatursa, who's just shooting at war deck targets, you know, let's say you bring in a battleship, but you also bring in a Griffin. You can kill that guy now, because what you've done is you've brought in a tool after he's made the decision to fight. Based on the information he had, you brought in something he didn't know about, and then used that to defeat him. And so that's a basic overview of how it would play out to get there as far as a fight goes. When it comes to actually doing the shooting, I mean, it's fairly simple. There's a reason why they make fun of people in nullsec for being F1 monkeys. But you pretty much just have to make sure that you're anchored up on your FC. You know, you're following him around, and then when he tells you to shoot someone, you shoot him. Doing logistics is a bit more difficult because you have to be really on the ball and make sure that you're locking people in time and getting the reps in time. And doing support is probably one of the harder things you can do in a regular fleet, because support can include also ships like a Slasher or a Stiletto that hold down the enemy ships while everyone else gets there. Or it can be stuff like Molluses, Crucifiers, Vigils that provide some extra benefit to the fleet. And learning to fly those can be very handy as well. So my favorite kind of like kiting setup, or I wouldn't say kiting, but like skirmish setup, is to run 4 Thrashers with artillery, because they can get rid of small ships very quickly. 2 Tristans with warp disruptors and shield extenders, because their drones can do damage just by being around, and they also serve as pretty good tackle ships. And you can also swap out the drones for like ECs or the ECM drones, which jam people out. And then run 2 bursts and a Mollus, and the bursts will make sure that all the ships stay alive versus lower amounts of DPS, or at least extend the lifetime of the Thrashers so that they can kill things. And the Mollus will prevent you from getting your entire fleet from getting wiped by a sniper ship, because people really like their sniper ships. And so that's a basic comp that you can run. You know, you can take that around low sec with 6-7 people. And the benefit of something like Arty Thrashers is that people kind of act disrespectfully to them. And then, of course, when they get blapped in the face by a combined 8,000 damage, it's not what people are expecting.
And then we get tiers that are salty.
Ideally, yes. So as far as getting a fight goes, in low sec, one of the better ways to do it is to go around faction warfare space, especially if you're in frigates and destroyers. And I mean, if you really wanted to, you could even do this as like a bi-weekly thing, where you have, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Or sorry, you could do it as a every other day thing, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you take these 6 ships. I think the Thrashers cost like 10 mil a piece. The Burst costs 5 mil a piece, and the Tristans cost 7. So it's around 80 mil for the entire 6-man setup. So basically, one person running incursions for 1 hour can get enough money for 2 days worth of PvP. And so I don't know who would be interested in sponsoring that, but that's a great way to start to get used to some of these roles. You know, you can have the burst pilots who have to learn how to lock people quickly, how to rep. So I'll just put all these fits in the corp chat in Discord. And I think I gave them to Vlad as well, but if you want to save them, Destin.
Yeah. I'm still on the test server having.
It's good to have fun.
My 42.4 DPS praxis because I have no skills. Let's go.
All right, let me just see here.
I'll switch over to Singularity. Or Tranquility, my bad.
So that's the Tristan fit. That's the burst fit. And that's the Thrasher fit. And so if you just want to save those, I know the Thrasher fit is Tech 1, but you can go Tech 2 guns and then swap some stuff out for fitting. But those 3 fits, you know, that'll take you pretty far, at least as far as being able to shoot things go. Yeah, so the Gang Thrasher, that one's actually 15 mil. Why is that so expensive? Oh, the Type 2 modules. So yeah, if you go 4-2-2, 4 Thrashers, 2 Bursts, 2 Tristans, that's pretty good for at least getting started.
All right, and I got a Blackbird with that ECM fit you gave me.
Yeah, that's something you'd bring to Caracol fleets.
All right.
But I suppose my biggest recommendation would be to get in the habit of going out and PvPing more often, simply because that's how you. And I think you guys live near Black Rise, is it, or do you live near Amar area?
I'm honestly not entirely sure. Like what I know, we're in Galente space, and we're 1 jump away from Avanod. Low.
Said Alvanon?
Sing liaison.
Oh, okay, you're in sync. So yeah, there's you can go to Black Rise through Kanaka, or you can go to Huola. Huola is a good place to roam. But yeah, I figure as far as basic fleet rules goes, that's the first thing that I'd recommend getting into, is figuring out what you like to do. And then starting to bring more support and more logistics into your fleets. At least when it comes to the Thrash rooms and the Caracal rooms. And Destiny, you know, it's going to be up to you to get people into this, or get people to come and just run around low sec. But the nice part is that if you can kill a single, you know, if you can kill a single Tech 2 fit or a single Tech 2 ship, then you've won the ISK war. You know, if you can kill more than you lose, then that's a good place to start. And cheap ships like that do a ton of damage, like that Thrasher, are really kind of spooky.
I like spooky. Spooky makes me happy.
So yeah, that's what I've got for you as far as just stuff I wanted to talk about. I mean, I don't know. I was expecting people just want to ask some questions.
I think a lot of us recognize that we're not the biggest pros in the world, and we just want to learn what.
Well, let people talk for themselves.
Yeah, please ask questions.
I don't have any questions. I think this is a lot of fun. I can almost do that, Tristan.
No one has anything they want to know about?
Sorry, I missed most of that. Life, sorry about that. I caught the back end about asking questions and going
Yes,
through.
yes. Anything you may be wondering about.
If you're running the tackle and the support, how important is tackle and support really?
Very important. It's the reason that fights happen.
So it's worth just chucking everything. Do your ships need to have maximum EHP, or can you get away with sacrificing some of that to get the tackle stuff in?
You mean as far as on your ships?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's very valuable to specialize because ships that are tackle ships are going to be doing just that. In your DPS, like when you run Thrashers, I think all of them have a scram.
Right, okay. So we've been playing a couple of months, so I'm still trying to work out what's going on. You mentioned a lot of ships, I don't know what they are and what they do.
Yeah, so basically a tackle ship is going to be... So as far as support goes, there's a couple different types of support. There's tackle ships, and that's anything that's designed to catch and hold an enemy ship. I think the best example of this is something like an interdictor or an interceptor. You know, their entire purpose is to hold down enemy ships. And then there's E-warships, so that's anything that uses electronic warfare. It's going to be stuff like ECM, DAMPs, tracking disruptors, etc. And then there's other stuff like there's link boats, and those are a bit further down the line once you start working your way up to battle cruisers. There's a battle cruiser doctrine thing that I slipped over to Vlad. I don't know if you wanted to take a look at it, but that's Drakes. I think Drakes are really good for the price. And so if you needed to ever like attack a structure or something like that, you'd probably want to get a bunch of Drakes out with logistics and all that, just so you can have the full package there.
That second fit that you linked, what ship is that? The Gang Burst.
It's a Logi frigate.
Anyone in particular?
Well, it's the Minmatar one. The nice thing about the Minmatar Logistics frigate is that it can operate by itself.
Alright.
And you don't necessarily need to have everyone with each other. Each person just has to be able to do their own thing. So with other logistics ships, things like the Augurer and the what is it called? The Kirin? Yeah, the Minmatar or the Color one. They need to be hooked up to each other to be able to hold their to keep their capacitor going, so that they can rep stuff. But this burst here, you just need to be able to be with the main group and then repair someone when they broadcast for repairs. If you've ever done incursion logi, it's just like that.
Burst, is that just shield and armor repping, or I'm missing something?
It's a shield repping ship.
What about armor repping ships? We don't seem to be using a lot of armor. Is it all shields?
Well, the idea is to build it around Thrashers, right? Because that's what you guys are used to.
Right, okay.
And so the idea is that instead of going with just 10 Thrashers, you'd go with like 6 or 7 Thrashers, 2 logistics frigates, and then a tackle/E-warship. And my proposal is that you can get more done with these supporting ship types than you can with just having one ship type, which would be the Thrasher in this case. Anyone else have any other things they're wondering about?
I do have a question. I'm trying to frame it. Bear with me a second.
Yeah, and usually the way it goes is that you send your tackle ships 1 or 2 jumps ahead of the fleet to try and find something and hold it down, and then everyone else comes through.
Sort of where I was going. So I've come across, we send scouts out. Are the scouts the tackle ships?
Yes, the scout to be the tackle ships. The rules generally tend to be the same.
Where does the war fit in amongst the scouts and tackles? And do they come with the tackles, or do they go with the main fleet?
The where?
The E-war.
The E-war? The E-war is with the main fleet.
So you can't put tackle and E-war together?
Well, you can, but that's a little bit further down the line. There's a couple ships that are really good tackle plus E-War. One example is the Carries, which is a Tech 2 Galente frigate that has a bonus to warp disruptor range, but can also damp someone's sensors down so that you can actually hold them down and they can't lock you to kill you. And so that's an example of where you want to bring your E-War with your tackle.
Because I'm Galente, and I'm a very, not anal, but I tend to do the whole one thing at a time. So I'm Galente, I'm looking at what Galente can do, so that's quite handy for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I would suggest is bringing a Maulus, and a Maulus is one of those ships that you do want to have arrive second, because you don't want the ship that you're holding down to be able to kill the ship that's holding it. But all of the light tackle and E-War ships they want to be out of range. So, for instance, a Maulus does its job just as well at 60 kilometers as it does at 20, but it's a lot safer at 60. You know, like,
Right.
you want to be further out so that you can retain your own safety while still doing your job. Just like how most tackle ships, you don't want to ram right into someone, because if they warp scramble you, then you have no defense because speed is your defense.
Right, see what so the tackle ships are quite small, destroyers, frigate top size.
It's generally just frigates. I mean, interdictors are destroyer hulls, but that's something a bit more specific to nullsec, and using dictors comes with understanding how bubble mechanics work and how people move between gates. I will say that interdictors are what you use to hold down people once you get to like 50 to 100 man fleet fights.
We're not there just yet, I don't think.
No, probably not. That's more nullsec stuff, and it's it's an exciting role if you're in a huge fleet, but it's very easy to get yourself killed if you don't know what you're doing. Because when you go and set bubbles down using an interdictor, you're trapping yourself as well.
Nice. Very suicidal then, yeah?
It can be. Again, if you're careful and you know how to maximize your speed to get away from things that want to kill you, then it's a little bit easier to survive. So the general engagement pattern, so let's say that you get together your 6 people, right? And you want to go out into low sec and go shoot something. Okay, well, first of all, you want to send your scouts ahead. So it's going to be either Tristans, Slashers, Condors, tackle ships like that. So you're in one system and you want to jump into another. What you do is you send your Slashers in there and you have them start using the directional scanners to try and find stuff. And that can be anywhere from, ships that are sitting in a faction warfare complex to people mining, people who are sitting on gates, anything like that. In low sec, I'd recommend fighting in faction warfare complexes, simply because you don't have to worry about stuff like gate guns or people on stations or holding aggro. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and so anyone that comes to you and gets caught by you doesn't have as easy of a time escaping. And so once your tackle ships get something caught, you want to bring in the rest of your ship. So the way you'd say that is, let's say that I'm in a slasher and I go and tackle a thorax in a complex, right? What I'd say is I'd say point thorax, and then I'd say medium complex. Or if you're in a fleet, you can just say warp to 2021, for instance. And so when people get into that system, they'll find my name in the fleet window, right-click and select warp to me. And at that point, everyone will start coming towards the complex, and that's where you can pile in and start doing the damage.
Is it worth doing faction warfare to practice this stuff? Or is it worth going into low sec?
I think so. I'd say low sec is difficult, very difficult if you're going solo. But if you have a group of 4 to 5 friends, you have a lot better of a chance. And that's basically because there's people who've been living in low sec for years and years, and they fly around in like 1 billion-isk ships with really expensive pods, and you're never going to beat them solo because they've spent more money on the game than you. Plus, they probably know what they're doing. But if you get a group of people together, he may be flying in a 1 bill ship, but 4 Thrashers all shooting at the same time is still 4 Thrashers all shooting at the same time,
I'm just thinking faction warfare, it's more fleet-based. I would have thought it would give us more chance to merge all the skills, that was all.
And well, yeah, again, it's something that people do to make money, but I'd honestly recommend going there as a group, just because people there are looking. And you probably won't get fair fights, but you'll find people wanting to fight you. Whereas if you go out to nullsec to try and learn to PvP, you're just going to get people who do not want to fight you. They'll drop capitals on you. They'll bring a 100-man fleet to come and like, for instance, I went out to Cobalt Edge where the Chinese live, and they had a Nyx and 2 rapiers following me around for an hour. You know, we'd call that overkill, but they wanted me gone. So, and so in lowsec, you'll find people who actually are there for a fight.
Right. Okay. So we practice in lowsec then, yeah.
Yeah, it's just as simple as getting together your 6 or so ships. You know, your 3 or 4 Thrashers, a Burst, and a Tristan, or you can even go up to 8 people or 10. As long as you keep, you know, that 1 to 5 is usually the way you want to be. Maybe 1 to 4 if you're going with small ships, but. And you all pack it. You all get together, get in a fleet, set your destination for somewhere in lowsec. Like I'd recommend Huola or Kanaka as good places to start. And I'll pack up and go. And if y'all die, y'all die. But it's still cheaper than losing a 1 bill Orca, so.
Yeah, there is that.
Some other options as far as learning to GateCamp and stuff goes is what you could do is you could find a Thera exit in HiSec. And this is something that actually is pretty easy to do. Because if you go into Thera on the high, you know what Thera is, right?
No, never been there yet.
It's basically a wormhole that has connections to a ton of different places. Also, Japal, you want to stop breathing in your mic so much?
Sorry.
It's basically a wormhole that has connections to a lot of different places. And so a lot of people will go into it from HiSec. And so if you set up that same GateCamp, except do it right on top of the wormhole, then you can catch people who are trying to come into Thera with the lock speed set up on that Condor. And then the cool part is that if things start going south for you, you can jump into the HiSec, and people can't shoot you at the HiSec without getting killed by Conk. So it's basically like running a GateCamp, but if you ever run into trouble, you can just leave.
So being annoying 101, basically.
Pretty much, but it's a good way to start getting, you know, a feel for.
Oh, the way I see it, people already seem to hate ICANP on the forum, so I'm not gonna.
Exactly. So what difference is it gonna make?
Yeah, what are they gonna do? Ooh, you guys are camping us. Well, I mean, you guys said we're Care Bears, so do something.
Yeah. True. So yeah, I mean, again, a big part of it is just being able to take initiative.
What is the most common ammo that people use? EM?
On Minotaur ships?
Just in general. I mean, like, I seem like... Yeah, Thrashers seem to be pretty common. What do people mostly bring?
For PvP these days?
Yeah.
A lot of Triglavian ships. Those
Yeah,
guys do thermal plus explosive damage. The ship you'll probably end up running into the most, Mura, which is a very strong ship. But if you use your Ewar to bring his lock range down, or bring his gun range down, then he can't really get in range of you and kill you without running into your Thrashers. And it's important to not let yourself get separated as well when you're all in a group together. Because if he can separate you out, then he can kill one person at a time. But if you stay together, then your Thrashers can protect your Burst and your Maul. And you have that ability to screen for each other, which basically means that you're preventing enemies from getting close because there's too much threat. But if your Maulus goes and runs off 50 kilometers away from your Thrashers, then
Your Maul is screwed.
Yeah, then your Maulus is a bit easier to kill, and that's a very important chip to have. And the reason I would say you should go with Arties for the Thrashers instead of autocannons is simply because a lot of times the damage that comes out of those can surprise people, and before they have time to react, they're dead.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I think the Artillery Thrasher here does something like, let me see. I know it does 200 DPS. And that's... Yeah, so it does around 1600 alpha. With good
What?
tracking. And that means alpha strike is basically how much damage you do in an instant. So 4 of those would be around 6000 alpha, which is enough to one-shot most frigs and seriously hurt most destroyers.
Somebody in Discord chat, Corp chat, is asking for a
Oh, for the Ewar fit.
E-
Yeah. I forgot about that.
and I have my my Blackbird fit.
Yeah, I'll send the frigates to you guys because these are the easiest ones to acquire. And if you're missing any T2 things on here, then you can just swap out the modules. So that's a Mollis, that's Damps. You're going to be using that mostly to prevent people from sniping at you and to prevent enemies from poking at you from a distance. The other really good one is the Crucifier, and I think I sent that. Oh yeah, I have it on Python. That's this fit here. And that's good versus Triglavian ships because you can prevent them from shooting as far. And then let's get a Griffin on there because Griffins are fun. And because they make people extremely upset.
So now that right there, that you've sold me on that. I can make people upset. Say no more.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Yeah, and I don't know if you want to find someone who can save those to your Corp fittings, but those are the 3 basic Ewar ships. The Minmatar one, the Vigil, is good if you're in a fleet with larger ships, but generally you're not going to see it used too much if you're using smaller guns like Thrashers or Caracals.
I'm not sure if I can, but I think I can save to corporate fittings. I still haven't explored all of my rights as an officer yet, but...
And yeah, again, you know, it's just... If you can go out there and get a kill or 2, then it's a good place to start.
And that is why we are here. We need to get a good
So
place.
for today, I think Dimitri's doing a Thrasher fleet, right?
That is my understanding, yes. Let me see if he's on right now.
So what I'd encourage some of you to do is, when you guys do the Thrasher fleet tonight, or today, whichever, bring along a couple of those Ewar ships, and sort of try and get a basic grasp on how they're useful. Generally, you want to be damping down anything with the rapid light missiles, so stuff like Caracals, Orthruses, Osprey Navies, Kikimoras are also a good thing to damp down. The tracking disruptors you're going to want to use on ships with turrets. And the Griffin you can just use on everything. And just see what you can jam. See who you can upset.
See who you can upset. All right. I'm going to be getting a grip.
So yeah, I mean, again, if no one else has any questions, that's basically the short and long of what I wanted to go through today. Just some basic stuff and how you can apply the knowledge of different roles to be a bit more effective.
Now, what do you do with, since you've done a lot of FCing, if you have heavy logi on both sides, and you got 2 fleets that are comparable but different?
They're not killing each other?
And not killing each other. What do you go for to is it just a change up?
Well, yeah, there's different ways of doing that, and the reason why...
Start drone killing? What? I mean, what do you do to break the...
enemy tank?
The stalemate.
So there's a couple things you can do. That's one of the reasons why you bring ECM ships, is because if you have all your ECM go hot, so heat their ECM, and then try to jam out a Logi ship or 2, then you can start to... Another common tactic is switching primaries. So what you'll do is you'll have your DPS members. So everyone in the DPS ship will lock up 4 or 5 guys. One person will shoot one ship and basically try to bait him into getting all the logistics. And then once all the logistics are repping one guy, they'll quickly switch to another. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff you can do as an FC to try and break a stalemate like that. A good example is in wormhole fights. The ships that we use, Leshaks and Drekavax, have a lot of EHP. And so, switching really quickly like that isn't as effective because the massive amount of HP that the ships have give the enemy Logi, or the Logi on both sides, time to react. So then what you start to do is you start to bring, stuff like large amounts of newts, stuff like Balgorns, Armageddons, and just try to drain out the capacitor from the enemy Logi. I'd say as far as like mechanical difficulty goes, if you want to try and break the stalemate right away, well, see, okay, so there's a problem with this because you can either go for the enemy Logi first, but if they kill all your ships before you finish killing their Logi, it doesn't matter. Or if you can break through their Logi, you can start going, shooting at their DPS ships until your Logi can hold. But generally that type of stalemate doesn't happen too often, just because people make a lot more mistakes than that. It just takes one guy being 2 seconds too slow on clicking to repair another ship, and then you can lose an entire fight because of that.
Gotcha.
But if you're not breaking the enemy even after switching ships, and their Logi's doing fine and your jams aren't landing or whatever, usually that's a good sign that it's probably time to leave. Now, the way that in nullsec, the way people get around this is they use what's called alpha doctrines. And so the most common of these is like you see Munins flying everywhere. You probably hear a lot about Munins.
Nope.
Well, the reason Munins are so popular is because they do a large amount of upfront damage, and so the idea is that you get enough of them all in a ball together, and they all shoot at the same time, that you can just straight up one-shot enemy ships, so that the amount that they repair doesn't. And I can find an old
Alpha Strike Death.
Yeah, basically, it's Alpha Strike doctrine.
So what instead of using them, is that something that's just nullsec and lowsec, or is that something that can be used up here in highsec?
You can use it in highsec as well. I don't see any reason why not. Like, for instance, here's a good video of an Alpha Strike doctrine in action. If you skip to, I don't know, I think, around 1 minute in is when they start shooting, and you can see that Test Alliance here has a massive number of male snakes, and those rattlesnakes have really high resistances, so they get really good effect out of Logi. But the thing is, Test has brought so many maelstroms that they can just blast right through the rattlesnakes, just basically one-shot them before the logistics can repair them. And as far as highsec goes, a lot of gate camping ships in highsec have really big active tanks, so they can repair a lot, but they usually don't have as much buffer. And so what you try to do is you try to blast through their buffer and into their hull before they can rep their arm. And do you guys use autocannons for your Thrasher fleets? Or do you use artilleries?
I don't do PvP this way. I'm just primarily listening and trying to garner information.
Let me see here. Let me check Dimitri's skill board and see what he uses. Okay, let's Thrashers. Yeah, so it looks like you guys use autocannons right now. And so, you could try and switch it up a bit and use artillery instead of autocannons to get a feel for what an Alpha Strike doctrine is. Because 10 on Thrashers alpha for around 15k, 15,000 total EH with a Tech 1 fit, and that's enough to one-shot anything smaller than a cruiser, really. Of course, the autocannons are easier because you can just sort of click approach and run into someone and try and blap them, but there is decent value coming from using the artilleries and getting an idea, all shooting at the same time.
It's called cheating.
Maybe. And then, of course, when you pair that with something like ECM, you can jam out the Logi and then try and blast through the the regular DPS ships. And then of course, if you're the FC of that, you want to get everyone used to shooting at the same time, because that's how you're most effective. So you'd say primary is 2021 fire, and then you'd have everyone go and blap them.
Okay.
The kind of like the bigger version of that is using RE Hurricanes. Or I guess you could do something like RD Raptures, but Hurricanes are a pretty good choice. With RD Hurricanes, at that point each of your ships is doing like 4,000 alpha strike damage, and 4,000 times 20, 80,000 alpha is enough to blast through most cruisers.
Warp drive active.
Another thing that might be good to bring to the Thrasher rooms is some longbow cormorants. I know Brave uses them pretty heavily, but the value of those is that you can sort of just sit off at a long range and poke people out, and that prevents you from getting kited as much.
And they do hit hard.
Yeah, definitely. So it might be good to mix in a few of those with the rest of the Thrashers, simply because of the flexibility that it gives you in shooting at different people. So something like that.
And they will die.
The Corms?
The guys you're shooting at.
Well, ideally, the Cormorants will die if people shoot at them, but the idea behind the Cormorant is that you sit off at 100 kilometers, so that's very difficult to reach.
I know. They also, isn't there that one thing you can do to get them to like get their range a little bit farther out, and still have a pretty effective DPS?
That's what the Locust rigs are for.
Okay. I thought it was a ship that used to do it.
And so this is a that video I just posted in Corp Chat is a clip of me and some corp mates of mine, well, corp mates and an allied corp, fighting against Kikimoras in our Cormorants. And I think we killed something like 5 or 6 Kikis. It might have been 4. And we lost all our Cormorants. But because each of their Kikimoras were, I think, 300 million ISK, and each of our Cormorants were 15 million, we won because we caused more damage than we took.
And that's what matters. Also, the tears of your enemies also makes it worth it too. There's value.
No, yeah, definitely. We killed their FC. First thing we did is we killed the person commanding them. Just straight up headshot the dude.
Alpha leadership, and the rest will follow.
And then later on, they land right on top of us because they had a warp. But that's just an example. If you all get together and fight against people who are in more expensive ships, and they were better at the game than us as well, you can still do a lot of damage just by the power of outranging. Very handy.
Yeah, and that's why people like snipers so much, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Same deal. Yeah, and I like to go fly out with the people I fly with. I'm usually in a small frigate that can shoot pretty far, just because I like to be able to poke stuff down and not have to commit as much. And that's why people like kiting so much, is because you can make a decision to leave once you engage.
Yeah, and kiting's pretty fun, yeah. Lead the guy around by the nose.
Yeah.
Wow, look at my stream. I wasn't paying attention, and look at where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, anyone else have any questions about just general stuff and the usage of support?
No, I think, well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if anyone else has any questions. Please ask away.
And again, I think part of getting used to
Do
it
you
will be
guys
just
do you
going out doing
guys
it.
run any like bomber fleets sometimes?
I know that one of the guys in my corp is an FC for Bombers Bar, which is the public group that does bombing.
Yeah. I got a pretty decent little bomber. It's just that, and I also got a little assault frigate.
Yeah, both of those can be nice to have along. Bombers are cool because you can damage to battleships while still remaining relatively safe.
Give the command to
But assault
command
frigates make for
fires
really good
attack
tackle
an
because of
active
the
target.
invulnerability module.
Yeah. They're
And that's
fun.
nice to have around. Yeah, again, I just recommend going out and trying out something like that, either with the Thrasher roams or starting something different. I don't know if you want to do that. Destiny. But I've also been talking to Vlad about trying to get people more into small gang, and we'll see how he feels about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna start taking out Thrashers with some Scrams and ECM fleets. If I'll run the Scram myself.
Well, I'd recommend using the like if you're going to lead the fleet. Whenever I take a fleet out, I usually do tackle. I usually end the tackle ship, just because it's nice to be able to guide everyone around to where they need to go. Once you get someone caught, you can say, "Okay, everyone, come to where I am," and they'll all go through there.
Okay, that makes sense. And I love tackling, so I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and I'd recommend using that Thrasher fit with the long-range warp disruptor, because while you do have the option to just smack into someone and try and blast them, that fit also lets you sit at 10 kilometers, 15, 20 kilometers, and sort of poke them out if it's a ship that's dangerous to get right up next.
Okay. Yeah, I've been running Condors for my tack.
Yeah, I mean, even if you want to do another once-a-week fleet on like a different day than Dimitri's, people who have the opportunity to try out PvP, they might end up enjoying.
Right, that'd be optimal. Yeah, I'm gonna start running fleets on weekends. For people that want to try it out.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I've got plenty of free time. If anyone wants to send me any questions, and just in Corp chat, you can go ahead and shoot me any question. Just you can ping at 2021. And if you want to send me a question in game, my character name is X428. I should be bopping on there every once in a while. And you can either send me a message through ICANP or just personally on Eve as well.
Yeah, and thank you so much for taking the time to teach us all this stuff. I mean, I know we're still trying to get the hang of it.
Yeah, thank you very much for your help.
Yeah, it's very much, it's something else to do, right? It's something to do if you want to. You can go out and try and shoot some people.
Eve is fueled by the tears of the people who get killed, so we want to contribute.
Well, and I think also it'd be really funny if someone has to go up to their court mate and say that they got killed by Thrash.
And incompetent and proud.
Yeah. I don't know about that. That might be a bit too negatory.
Oh, really?
Anywho, I have to go jump some people in that wormhole. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you very much.
Peace out. You guys have a good weekend.
You have a good weekend.
And you.
Too.